family members, roommates, current and former romantic partners, and police officers to ask a judge to take away a person's guns for up to a year if they believe they're dangerous.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Deplorable Bostonian News Network, and of course, I am your host, Steve Murphy. So, today's video, I am talking about the most popular governor in the country, Governor Charlie Baker, up here in Mass. The wonderful Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Now, as you can probably tell, I love Massachusetts. I love Boston. I love everything about Boston. It's bred into me. It's in my blood. I love Boston. I love the history. I love everything about it. Boston invented America. We had a strong part in the birth of the country. And there's no doubt about it. So, for many reasons, I love Boston. Now, like I said, this video is about Governor Charlie Baker. And he was a never-Trumper to begin with, refused to back the greatest president in modern times. Sorry, I gotta pull a couple things up real quick so I can read a couple of news articles for you real quick. So, okay, here we go. Now, the state of Massachusetts, well, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has the strictest gun laws probably in the entire country, I'm pretty sure. The state bans pretty much any and every, quote, assault weapon, which, I mean, anything can be considered an assault weapon. And that includes a lot of semi-automatic weapons, a lot of AR-15s. They restrict a lot of high-capacity magazines. They were one of the first states to pass legislation that outlawed bump stocks after the Parkland shooting last year. And I'm pretty sure there's no open carry in the state of Mass, and it's damn near impossible to get a license to conceal carry. So this new bill that was just passed, that Charlie Baker just signed into law, it was supported by Speaker of the House here in Mass, Robert DeLeo, and Representative Marjorie Decker, who are just terrible, terrible, terrible representatives for the state of Massachusetts, for the people of Massachusetts. So this red flag bill lets a judge temporarily take away a person's guns and ammunition if a roommate, family members, current or former lovers go in front of a judge or police go in front of a judge and think the person is dangerous to himself or others. And this says that 42% of mass shooters had red flags or warnings that lead to tragedy. Now that's mildly amusing because, for instance, Parkland, Florida, Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School. This kid had many, many, many red flags. This kid had a record, but it wasn't really a record. But there were incidents at this kid's house. The police were called to Nikolas Cruz's house 23 times. And out of those 23 times, 18 of them were for Nikolas Cruz. At 10 years old, his mother called the police to the house for him. I believe, from everything I've read, I believe that was the first time she called the police on him. November 2013, he threw his mother against the wall. He had put a gun to somebody's head. I believe I read somewhere that that somebody was his brother. So the sheriff's department, Broward County, they knew about Nikolas Cruz. The FBI knew about Nikolas Cruz. They were warned about him, and they did nothing. They stood down. And on Valentine's Day, the day that this deranged kid, well, he wasn't a kid, he was 19, but this deranged person who was on SSRIs was clearly disturbed, and who the FBI and the police had plenty of opportunity to stop and get off the streets and to prevent this massacre, but they didn't. And then when he walks into that high school and starts shooting people, the Broward County sheriffs show up and they do nothing. They stand outside and do nothing, and they let people die. They let kids die. So you could talk about red flags all you want, but put the blame at the feet of the people it belongs. It doesn't. It belong. The blame belongs to you. It belongs on the authorities. It doesn't belong on law-abiding citizens. You know. And this red flag bill, it is completely against. I mean, this violates a whole bunch of our rights that were enshrined in the Constitution. These were rights that the government does not give us. These rights were granted to us and endowed by our Creator. These rights come from God. They were enshrined by the writers of the Constitution to make sure that we had them, that nobody violated them. Now, by my count, there is at least three of the amendments to the original Bill of Rights that these red flag bills violate. The first, obviously, would be the Second Amendment, which everybody knows, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The key word there is the right of, well, the key phrase there is the right of the people. The people have the right to keep and bear arms without interference from the government. So you have the Second Amendment being violated. The next one that would be violated is the Fourth Amendment, which is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, in other words, you may not be arrested or detained, and no government agent or agency can inspect or seize any property or possessions without a warrant, and that includes firearms. The way I see it, this is a complete violation of the Fourth Amendment. It's unbelievable that they're doing this. We really need to be careful about this stuff because they're slowly but surely stomping on on every single right that we have. So then the next amendment, in my view, that's being violated by these red flag laws would be the Sixth Amendment, number 6, the right to a speedy and public trial. There is no trial, really. They can come, they can take your guns, and you don't get to go in front of a judge to defend yourself until 10 days later. That is not due process. That, as I said, is a violation of all three of these amendments. Amendment 2, Amendment 4, and Amendment 6. And we can't stand for this. This is insanity. And Charlie Baker, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm not all that surprised, coming from you, to be completely honest. Like I said, you're a never Trumper. You're the typical rhino Republican. You're a stone's throw away from the McCains in that crowd. So it's just insanity. But these bills are more about taking away people's guns than they are about the real issue that we have in America that's causing all these mass shootings. And it's not just one simple issue, but there is one primary issue, and the primary issue is the psychotropic drugs that are being pushed on kids at such a young age. I mean, at elementary school level, kids are being pushed, like drug dealers. The pharmaceutical companies are pushing Ritalin and Adderall and all these drugs for attention deficit disorder and ADD and ADHD, hyperactivity disorders. And from there, they go on to SSRIs for depression and anxiety, and they're on benzodiazepines and all these heavy, heavy drugs that really, really do take their toll on the chemistry in your brain, and they cause more problems than they solve. It says right there on the inserts that they can cause the exact problems that you're trying to treat. All those drugs can cause more severe anxiety, more severe depression, suicidal thoughts, homicidal thoughts and actions. I mean, it says right there on the inserts. I mean, you should look it up. It's insane. And then when you add in the violence that we're steeped in this culture now, in video games, in movies, the violence that Hollywood pushes, TV, it's just. When I was growing up, violence, I mean, you had some violence, but I mean, the video games and the movies that we have today is it's night and day compared to when I was growing up. And I'm not even really all that old. I'm only 31 years old. So, I mean, it's night and day from when I was a kid. The shit that these kids are seeing now. It's insanity. And of course, these bills were pushed by none other than the student activists. After the Parkland shooting, these activists, students were pushing for gun reform because they're misled, they're uninformed, and they're just pushing the talking points that the Democratic Party and the mainstream media are spewing, and they're just regurgitating bullshit. And it's really sad. And they had that little twerp, David Hogg, out there leading the charge, and that other little girl there that he was with the shaved head, Emma something or other, I think. And those two are just now you got David Hogg running around with armed guards, but he wants everybody else to give up their guns. I mean, come on, dude. This is insanity. They got up there and they brought Dana Lash to the CNN town hall, and they brought that coward sheriff from Broward County, Sheriff Israel, and it looked like the 2 Minutes of Hate from George Orwell's 1984. They were just screaming, burn her, and I mean, they didn't even give her a chance to respond with any facts or any detail. And Sheriff Israel stood there knowing that his officers stood outside and did nothing while students died. And he sat there like he was a hero, knowing that he could have stopped that shooting. If he had acted one of the 23 times that his officers had responded to Nikolas Cruz's home, or if his officers had gone into that school instead of standing outside and letting officers from a neighboring county run into the school to save those kids. But no, they didn't even let the paramedics in. They stopped paramedics from going into that school. So, one more thing. So before Parkland, California, Washington, Oregon, Indiana, and Connecticut all had these red flag bans. Since Parkland, Florida, Vermont, Maryland, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, and now Massachusetts have all passed these red flag bills. That's 12. 12 out of 25 states. That's almost half. It's almost half. That's about half the country. So, like I said, that's almost half the country. They're erasing our rights, slowly but surely. About the way you control a populace is you control the way they move, you control the way they shoot, you control the way they communicate. You control those three things, and you control the people. David Knight says that maybe not every day, but almost every day on his show on InfoWars, that if you want to control a population, all you got to do is you control their ability to shoot, you control the way they communicate, their ability to communicate, and you control their ability to move. And if you are capable of doing those three things, you have complete control over the population. And that's what we're seeing happening right now. There is a full-on assault on all three of those abilities. And they're working on all three. We can't allow it to happen. Thank God Trump's in office, but he can't do it alone. We need to have his back because he has ours. And I can say that with full confidence that President Trump has our back and he's in it for us. And we need to have his back. So, appreciate you guys watching. I know this has been kind of a long video. If you guys enjoy my stuff, if you enjoy my videos, head on over to Twitter. Follow me at MassholeMaga. If you feel generous, you can head on over to my Patreon. patreon.com/DeplorableBostonian. I got a PayPal. I'll put the link somewhere. I write articles too. I do some writing. I'll be doing some more writing. I'll be getting on that, doing some more of that. The link for that will be in the description below, but it's medium.com/@DeplorableBostonian. There's a Facebook. There's a couple other links. I'll put them all in the description box. Other than that, like I said, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.